The Black Guerrilla Family, BGF, is one of the most historically significant and politically motivated prison gangs in the United States. Here's a detailed history of its origins, ideology, evolution, and current status. Origins and founding: 1966, founded by George Jackson, along with W.L. Nolan and other incarcerated black activists. Location: San Quentin State Prison, California. Year: 1966. Inspiration: influenced by Marxist-Leninist ideology, Black Power, and anti-imperialist movements, especially those led by figures like Malcolm X, Mao Zedong, and Che Guevara. Jackson, a member of the Black Panther Party, formed the BGF as a revolutionary organization inside prison walls. The group saw prisons as a microcosm of the larger struggle of Black Americans against systemic oppression and white supremacy. Ideology and goals: the BGF was unique among prison gangs because of its political foundation: overthrow the U.S. government and capitalist system, eradicate racism and classism, unite black inmates and organize them into a revolutionary vanguard. Educate prisoners on Marxist and revolutionary theory, protect black prisoners from abuse, racism, and violence within prison. Its motto: death to the fascist insect that preys upon the life of the people. Key historical moments: George Jackson and the Soledad brothers in 1970. Jackson and others were charged with murdering a prison guard in retaliation for the killing of black inmates by white guards. Jackson became a symbol of revolutionary struggle. His book, Soledad Brother: The Prison Letters of George Jackson, became influential in radical political circles. Jackson was killed in 1971 during an alleged escape attempt from San Quentin. His death sparked riots and increased BGF's profile both in prison and in radical leftist movements outside. Post-1970s shifts: after Jackson's death, BGF remained active but began to evolve, became more involved in organized crime, including drug trafficking, extortion, and murder, while still retaining some revolutionary rhetoric. Split grew between members who remained ideologically focused and those who pursued profit and control within the prison system. 1980s-1990s. Expansion and conflict: the BGF expanded beyond California into Maryland, particularly Baltimore, where it became heavily involved in the drug trade. It clashed with other gangs such as the Aryan Brotherhood, Mexican Mafia, and Nostra Familia inside prison walls. Law enforcement began classifying BGF as a security threat group and targeted it through crackdowns and surveillance. 2000s-2010s. FBI and law enforcement crackdowns in 2005. The FBI and local law enforcement launched multiple investigations into BGF activities, particularly in Baltimore and California. In 2010, the Maryland correctional system was rocked by a major scandal where BGF members had infiltrated prison operations. A 2013 federal indictment revealed a sex for contraband scheme involving female guards. The BGF's leadership structure was shown to be both hierarchical and adaptable, with orders passed between prisons and streets. Structure and symbol structure: paramilitary hierarchy with a central committee and field generals. Symbols: crossed rifle and sword over a black dragon climbing a prison tower. 276, corresponding to BGF in numerology. Black dragon, symbolizing resistance and revolution. Present day status: today, the BGF is considered a criminal enterprise by law enforcement, with operations in and outside prisons, still politically tinged, though many newer members are less ideologically driven and more focused on street-level criminal activity. One of the most structured and disciplined prison gangs, known for its longevity, secrecy, and recruitment of politically conscious inmates. legacy. Despite its criminal evolution, the BGF is still remembered for its roots in revolutionary black nationalism, the writings and martyrdom of George Jackson, the role it played in politicizing incarceration and racial injustice in American prisons. The Black Guerrilla Family, BGF, focusing on their modern operations, influence, and broader cultural impact, along with the timeline and the group's legacy in U.S. prison politics. Modern operations and influence, 2000s present, inside prisons. BGF remains a dominant force within California prisons, and to a lesser extent in Maryland, especially Baltimore City Detention Center. Known for strict discipline and requiring members to study revolutionary literature, for example, George Jackson's Blood in My Eye, Mao's Little Red Book. Members often operate in cells or families, coordinated by a central leadership even while incarcerated. Communication is highly secretive, sometimes using coded language or writings inspired by revolutionary jargon. Outside prisons in Maryland, BGF established a significant street presence, controlling drug distribution and influencing local gangs. It became notorious for recruiting correctional officers, often via coercion or seduction, smuggling contraband into prisons. Committing contract killings and extortion. Law enforcement action. BGF has been a target of FBI and ATF investigations under RICO, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Major indictments in the 2010s, notably the 2013 Maryland case, weakened BGF operations temporarily, but didn't eliminate its influence. Cultural and political legacy. George Jackson's impact. Jackson became a symbol of revolutionary resistance, with supporters ranging from the Black Panthers to international leftist movements. His writings remain required reading in some prison study circles and among radical political groups. BGF and racial politics. BGF helped politicize incarceration, especially among black inmates, raising awareness about mass incarceration, prison conditions, systemic racism. The organization also contributed to the broader conversation about reforming the prison industrial complex. And pop culture referenced in films, documentaries, and music that deal with prison culture and black resistance. The BGF's origins are often contrasted with other prison gangs that are more ethnically exclusive and less ideologically driven. Current challenges and trends. Ideological dilution. Newer generations are less politically oriented, more focused on economic gain and survival. Leadership vacuum. With key leaders incarcerated or killed, there's less central coordination, surveillance, and infiltration. Law enforcement has become more adept at infiltrating and monitoring BGF operations. Still, BGF retains mythic status among some incarcerated people as a symbol of black resistance, even if its revolutionary ideology has been overshadowed by criminal pragmatism. Organizational structure of the BGF. Despite operating in the chaotic prison environment, the BGF is known for being highly structured and ideologically regimented, at least among its core membership. Leadership hierarchy. Central Committee, CC, supreme decision-making body, typically composed of long-time, ideologically committed members. Minister of Defense, Minister of Information, roles modeled after the Black Panther Party, used to organize armed defense and communication. Field generals, lieutenants, oversee specific prisons, geographic areas or operations, drug trade, recruitment, enforcement. Closing parenthesis. Soldiers, foot soldiers, general membership who carry out day-to-day operations, probationary members, new recruits, undergoing a vetting and indoctrination period. This hierarchical structure allows the BGF to survive intense scrutiny and operate across state lines despite being primarily a prison-based group. Membership. Recruitment and oaths requirements to join must be black, historically. Though some exceptions may exist today, must be politically conscious, at least symbolically, though this varies by generation. Required to read and understand foundational, revolutionary texts in theory. Often must commit an act of violence to prove loyalty, for example, stabbing a rival, targeting a CO. Must swear loyalty to the family and adhere to secrecy. Oath of allegiance. While versions may vary, members generally swear to uphold the ideology of black liberation, defend the family at all costs, never betray, or drop out, risking a death sentence. Symbols, codes, and communications key symbols. Black dragon climbing a prison tower, symbol of strength, struggle, and defiance. Crossed sword and rifle represent armed resistance. 276. Numerical cipher for BGF: B equals 2, G equals 7, F equals 6. Tattoo placement. Often hidden in plain sight or disguised to avoid detection by authorities. Communication. Tactics: coded letters and slang to conceal plans. Kites. Smuggled written messages in prison. Use of Marxist phrases and references to historical revolutionaries to mask intentions. Comparison with other major prison gangs. Controversies and internal conflicts. Internal schisms have occurred between politically committed members versus profit-driven gangsters. Older members vs newer recruits with less ideological training. Dropouts and defectors have caused serious security breaches. Some testified in court. Weakening operations, rehabilitation and reform movements. Some former BGF members have denounced the gang lifestyle and become advocates for prison reform. Participated in programs focused on restorative justice, literacy, and mentorship for younger inmates. Written books, given interviews, and spoken about how BGF ideology was once a source of pride and resistance, but later corrupted by criminal elements. Summary of BGF's dual identity. Revolutionary Vanguard. In its purest form, it was a political organization aimed at black liberation and radical change. Criminal enterprise. In practice, especially over decades, it evolved into a powerful gang involved in narcotics, extortion, and violence. This dual identity, revolutionary idealism versus criminal reality, is the defining contradiction of the Black Guerrilla Family, George Jackson, and the ideological core. George Jackson's writings. Jackson's two seminal works, Soledad Brother and Blood in My Eye, are foundational to BGF's original ideology. Soledad Brother is a collection of prison letters outlining his political evolution, critiques of capitalism, and calls for black self-determination. Blood in My Eye presents a radical Marxist-Leninist analysis of U.S. institutions, advocating for armed struggle and prison revolution. Jackson's theory was that prisons are extensions of the plantation, where black bodies are controlled and exploited as tools of state power. BGF as Revolutionary Vanguard. BGF originally saw itself as a revolutionary army behind bars, organizing incarcerated black men into a politically aware force. Its ideology drew from Frantz Fanon, anti-colonialism and the psychological effects of oppression, Che Guevara and Mao Zedong, revolutionary violence as a tool for liberation, Huey Newton and the Panthers, armed self-defense and community control, influence on prison and social movements. Radical prison movements, 1970s, 1980s. BGF inspired other politicized prison groups and black liberation movements like the Angola 3 in Louisiana's Angola prison, the San Quentin 6, another group of black activists prosecuted for prison violence. Jackson's death. Viewed as state-sanctioned assassination, galvanized support from outside radical groups like the Weather Underground and Students for a Democratic Society, SDS. Academic and political legacy scholars like Angela Davis, Ruth Wilson Gilmore, and Dylan Rodriguez have written extensively on BGF and Jackson's role in theorizing the prison-industrial complex. BGF helped shift public understanding of incarceration from individual punishment to a system of racialized social control. Ideological decline and criminal evolution over time. Several factors caused a rift in BGF's revolutionary focus. 1. Generational shifts. Newer members, especially in Maryland and other states where BGF expanded, often joined for protection or criminal opportunity, not political education. While old-school leaders emphasized ideology and discipline, younger recruits focused more on street credibility and profit. 2. Targeted state repression. FBI surveillance, COINTELPRO-style tactics, solitary confinement of key leaders, and RICO prosecutions destabilized the ideological core. Prison officials and law enforcement worked to neutralize radical politics while tolerating more manageable criminal activity. 3. Internal corruption scandals, particularly the 2013 case in Maryland where BGF ran drugs and sex rings inside prison, damaged its image. Infiltration by informants and rival gangs also led to paranoia and factionalism. BGF and contemporary abolitionist movements. While the BGF as an organization has faded in political legitimacy, its ideological roots have been revived in newer movements. Black and Pink, Critical Resistance, and Abolitionist Law Center often cite George Jackson's work in advocating for prison abolition. Modern activists focus more on transformative justice, community healing, and ending mass incarceration rather than armed resistance. Jackson's legacy is now less about BGF as a gang and more about his ideas as tools for liberation.